Sox fans, welcome to Good Guys Talk Back, a local fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast, hosted by Nick Murawski and Pat Hester.
Hey, Thunder, indeed. Hey, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. We do this live on Sunday nights, 9:15 on the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. Like the stream, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Audio, love you folks too. Hey, that's available everywhere you find your podcasts. Want to thank Eric Gene Honda Carlson, for filling in last Sunday. He is such a passionate, diehard Sox fan, a great friend, known him for a long time, and he has got the best Gene Honda impression. So if you missed last week's episode 317, make sure you check that out. Got a lot to get to on our kind of hot here White Sox. Sunday was a bummer, but we got a lot of fun things to talk about. Back, here he is, my best friend. He's a diehard Sox fan. Pat Hester, hello, sir.
Yeah, Nick, tip of the cap to Eric. Thanks for filling in. Well, I was on assignment in Florida, and I'm going to tell you what, I texted you this. I'm walking around Disney on basically the surface of the sun. For 4 out of 7 days in Orlando, steamy, hot, lots of perspiration was happening, and I'm looking around at that magical kingdom. I'm saying I saw like a 6 or 7 to Sox to Cubs gear in Orlando. So I'd like to point that out whenever I'm going somewhere. I don't know if this is you, but when I'm out of town, I see someone with Sox gear on, it catches my eye, and I think, okay, it makes me feel good about being alive because this person's with me. And to see as much as I saw in Orlando was fantastic. It made my heart sing, Nick. And not only that, but you mentioned it, maybe not as red hot as they were out of the break, but another series win by this team. Still some great power being shown. Not so much a lot of runs on Saturday night, but enough to win a game. And hell, man, the young kids. I mean, there's flashes and there's reasons why there's hope as we continue this rebuild going forward. And this is the funnest part, really, because it's not about really worrying about the wins and losses, even though we're 17 and a half back of the wild card. It's about watching these young players come into their own and thinking about, wow, do we really have a new nucleus? So again, maybe putting a little bit cart before the horse, but you can kind of start seeing it come together. And this is the funnest part where you can say, 1, cool to see these guys succeed. 2, also wins are cool. That's fun to watch your team you care about win. And 3, what's this timeline now look like? So I know I said a lot, but I'm all kinds of excited to be back and talk to you. And we saw each other all weekend. Golf ball whacker guy over here. I wish everybody on the audience could have seen you hit a drive over the weekend. It was majestic and glorious and all things. I mean, you should put out a tape or a clinic.
Well, we've talked about trying to get a Good Guys Talk Back, like a golf outing, even like a Sox podcast golf outing. How cool would that be if just a bunch of different Sox podcasts, we all got a golf outing somewhere here, maybe in the southwest suburbs or the greater Chicagoland area. But yeah, it was a fun weekend. A lot of great laughs, a lot of good times. And, in a moment, we'll talk about, that Angel series. We were able to watch the game together, which doesn't happen
something
too often. So yeah, it's fun. Want to welcome and thank JT. Number 1, he's first in tonight. JT, Sydney, Steve, Dan, Sydney, Scott. Thank you so much for joining us here on this evening where Sox fell to the Angels after a 5-0 lead. But we've had 4 series since the All-Star break, and the Sox have won 3 of those 4. Now, you talk about being in Florida and seeing all these different Sox fans wearing gear. Is it current gear Do you see like the new City Connect?
I saw a family with the City Connect hats on, a whole family.
Wow.
I saw some just the general black, the SOX. That was the most common thing I saw, but again, I see it. I spot it. I saw the 83, the block SOX across the front of the hat. I saw that out there. So yeah, it was all varieties and kinds.
Yeah. Because sometimes when I do notice,
Nick, you may be muted. I don't
oh
know.
boy.
You may have somehow muted yourself. I don't know if you're
can
swearing
you,
at me
no,
or what could be happening. There could be some technical difficulties happening for
right
Nick
now?
because I can't hear you.
You
at
can't
the
hear
moment.
me right
Maybe
now?
it's me.
It could be you. I don't feel like I'm
No,
muted
I got you. Now I got you back. I don't know what happened there.
All right. So when I see Sox gear out, when I travel or whatever, sometimes they do like, okay, is that current or is that? It doesn't matter though. Really, they're wearing Sox gear publicly. They're voluntarily wearing White Sox gear. Sometimes in Florida, I wonder if those are folks that thought the Sox were coming to Florida and they gobbled up gear and they're still holding out hope that the Sox might make their way to Florida. But it's good that you had that experience and that you saw some Sox fans out there. I know we do have people in Florida that listen to the program, so hopefully you get another chance to rub shoulders with Sox fans. I think we lost Pat for a moment. He might be jumping back in. There you are, Pat. Are you able to hear me?
You know what? I don't know we're going to have to invest into some new technology on this show. We have to maybe put out, we may have to charge people for subscriptions or something. We got to really work on this technical stuff. That was me. That was all me. I'm sure that you said some wonderful things.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear most of it.
When Eric was on the program last Sunday, there were zero tech issues. It was something else.
So we've come to the conclusion of what the issue is. It's me.
Yeah. Well, our White Sox are 23 games back in the Central after all of the excitement since the All-Star break. 23 games back in the Central, 17 and a half games out of the wild card, and that's something tongue-in-cheek I've been kind of tracking and commenting on and paying attention to. Look, there's a million teams that are ahead of the White Sox, but they have bounced around from 16 and a half, 18, they're 17 and a half. It feels like they've been playing so much better. It feels like this is a completely different team. They are 42 and 70 though. Okay. Mm-hmm. They are 28 games under 500, but they have passed the win total from last year, Pat.
Yeah.
So we've already passed that ugly win total of 2024. The fear of them being even worse than 2024, that is over. And look, again, ugly loss on Sunday after being up 5-0. That was a good series, though, against the Angels. We saw a lot of good things. Yeah. You do not get to watch a lot of games, but you did on Friday and Saturday night when we were in these wonderful villas in Eagle Ridge Resort in Galena. What did you make? What did you like seeing about this team?
Well, they continue, hitting the ball at the ballpark. That's something, right? Colson Montgomery is just, he's fun to watch right now. He's turned in very quickly as must watch at bats at any moment. So that's something that has caught my eye. The pitching overall has been relatively solid. And guys that maybe you weren't thinking about counting on this year, or guys that maybe you thought may have been dealt. Not a lot of deals at the deadline. So guys that are still here. So that's, again, the overall product, Nick, is just more enjoyable to consume. We talked about it earlier, for a couple times, like it feels different, but the results out there. Now I'm seeing the results and it feels different. Right now, you don't hear a whole lot out of like a Will Venable, and that's a fantastic thing. When you're not having a conversation about a manager, that's great. And you hear just from the players that we don't give up, we fight hard, we were going to play hard for our manager. I mean, those are all wonderful things to hear because it's translating to the field. And I was listening today on the ride home. I was with the great Eric Carlson in his car, listening to the Sox game, and they did the Ask DJ segment, right? So somebody questioned like, what's been this difference that you've seen with this White Sox offense, and why is it now all of a sudden producing and home runs? The power that we've been lacking for so long is just all of a sudden exploded onto the scene. And really what DJ said was, the message hasn't really changed all that much with, what they've been hearing. It's they're finally like taking it, understanding it, and being able to apply it. Right. So the message has been consistent. And now it's just like, okay, I've gone through the trials and tribulations. Now I can actually take that very simple message and apply it and see the result. So it's the fact that they've stayed consistent with a message to the players and not panic and say, this is the right way, believe in it, results will come. And now we're seeing it. So I guess of all the things that I've watched and listened to a little bit today was the fact that the offense is still there. It was unfortunate today that after the third inning, we weren't able to pile on any more runs. But just an offensive game plan that they're able to put together and execute right now is really a fun thing to see.
Yeah, it is energetic. We're sitting there watching on Friday night and on Saturday, and kind of glued to the TV based on how this team is playing. Again, this team is one of the worst records in all of baseball. They're bottom of the cellar, but if you've been paying attention and you're a White Sox fan, that doesn't matter. What's happened last year and almost what happened at the beginning of the season didn't matter. You almost have to compartmentalize the White Sox, if that makes sense. You're chunking the season into different parts, and it's like, well, we knew the first couple parts were going to be ugly. We know what happened last year, but you're kind of winning these sections. And so far, I like the gelling, the chemistry. Again, if we learned anything from that 05 forever and celebrating the 20th anniversary of the 05 team, the chemistry that those guys had. And this is a group that, like the previous crop in 2017 and 2018, did come up together. This team, there's a different feel to it. I think there's going to be some moving parts in terms of position, but how about Colson Montgomery, Pat?
Oh, boy.
I mean, what has he got? 7 home runs since the All-Star break? Is that right?
Yeah.
This is a guy that we have kind of dogged on for a couple seasons now. He's not doing this. He's not hitting for power in the farm system. He had to go back to Arizona, and this guy looks all kinds of comfortable up in the bigs, bouncing from shortstop to third, but we need that offense. Okay. We need that offense. And he is showing us some damn excitement with the bat.
Yeah. And especially from the left side, something that we've been longing for a long time. Somebody with power from the left side has been, somewhat vacant around these parts for a while. So that is, it's, again, you always want, when these prospects or guys come up and they make their debut, very rarely is it like instantly they're just producing, but you see it in pieces, right? You think about from the north side perspective, when Bryant, when he was doing his thing, instantaneously came up and was producing for the Cubs. But that doesn't happen all the time. But you just want it to happen one time where it's like, wow, can we just have these guys that are supposed to be 100% hit rate guys that they're going to be superstars, to like do it from day one. And he has. I mean, obviously the struggles that he had were in the minor leagues, and you talked about the bouncing around and going to basically hitting lessons and going to get his swing right. That has produced for him. He worked hard to get back to where he is, and he deserves this opportunity. It'll come back to the mean a little bit, but it's exciting to watch him right now because he's just another 4 RBIs today, right? I believe he had the 3-run homer and another RBI single, if memory serves. So he's someone that's going to have to be reckoned with in that lineup. And I think it has maybe not just him alone, right? Because there's other guys doing things too, and Kyle Teal and Caro, and but not to the level Montgomery is. If you think about it, with all these guys, they just look like they're relaxed. I think it's had a positive, a positive, reaction to guys like Andrew Benintendi, who has been producing, and guys like Luis Robert Jr., who now is seemingly seeing the baseball better and providing something to this team where, and I'm sure we're going to talk about Lou Bob and the non-trade, but providing things to the other guys that, we're counting on to be big parts of this team. They seem to have just kind of relaxed, and they're enjoying the moment as well.
Yeah. You're right on Montgomery. 4 RBIs on Sunday, 4 home runs in the last 7 games, 10 RBIs in the last 7 games. He it's a great audition, as Sox fans that hopefully are starting to come back if they were gone. And I know there's still struggles to find, the product and watch it and consume it. But this is a good way of introducing yourself to White Sox fan base. We talk about win total, and I know it ultimately doesn't matter. It will need to matter eventually when we're looking to get the top of the division, maybe sniff a wild card in a year or so. And yes, you heard me say a year or so. And I think I'm starting to talk myself into it. And I do this all the time, but from what I've seen in this fairly small sample size, but where they could potentially get to, could they get to 62, 63 wins? That'd be over a 20 win increase. And JT has had a really interesting point here in the chat on our YouTube feed. 20 win improvement should get Venable Manager of the Year, or be an indication just how bad last year's management was.
Yeah.
And that, so where do you fall in that? Do you say, okay, this team is going to win 62 games and still lose 100 games, but wow, look at that, was a 20 win improvement. We got to give this team that won 62 games now Manager of the Year? Or do you simply just have to sit back and say that was because last year was an absolute, that was bad. That was beyond bad. That was horrendous. That should have never happened. Grifol should have never came back. That was such a huge mistake with everything that was happening. Where do you fall? Maybe both things can be happening at once.
Yeah, I still think a couple things in regarding the win total. We talked about it this weekend as a group of 7 out of 8 Sox fans together. Is 60 wins a possibility? What do you think about 60 wins? I'm like, that still seems like a lot to go, but there's still, over a month and a half of baseball remaining to be played. So it is possible for that to happen. I think it just points to the fact that, this year is it is a great improvement. I'm going to look at it as a year-over-year improvement and not worry about whether it was Grifol or how badly it was managed. That team was bad. That was a bad team. Okay, that's the worst of all time. I'm going to take it as a success. Like, we improved by 20 wins. I don't think that gets Will Venable Manager of the Year. I'm happy with what he did. I don't think he gets any votes for it. So you can't give Manager of the Year to a 100-loss team. That just doesn't feel like that should be the right thing to do. But, one way to look at it, yesterday when they won 1-0, gosh, I'm going to get this stat wrong and I don't have time to look it up at the moment, but I thought I heard something really crazy that DJ said on the air today. Not a crazy thing like he normally says, but like, I just couldn't believe it. I think they are, with that win, they're 1-19 in 1-run games this year. 1 win and 19 losses. So again, I know they lost them. Those are losses that they had. But my God, if you just were 400 in those 1-run games, what a difference that would make. Or you were 500 in those 1-run games. I mean, if we could start to win those types of games, then you're taking a leap forward. Here's the other thing I think about too, and they mentioned this on the air today: the turnaround the Marlins have had. I joked that I was down in Florida alerting other teams about our presence. But the Marlins are now 500 after sweeping the Yankees this weekend. And I think at the end of June, they were 16 games under. So they've come to turn their season around pretty quickly. Now, we have a much taller hill to climb than the Marlins had. But listen, it tells me that there's a lot of parity in baseball. It tells me that there are wins to be had, so they can be gobbled up here. I haven't looked ahead at their schedule, but there's going to be teams. There are going to be tough teams they play. They're going to have to play Detroit, right? They're going to have to play, I think they have the Yankees again, but no team is unbeatable, and I don't think they're going to get their lunch handed to them every time that they go and play people. And I don't. If I'm another team right now, I don't want to play this team. They've got that nothing to lose mentality.
They're playing with house money. They're playing with house money right now.
Those are the most dangerous teams to play. So, again, I don't know if I answered your question, Nick. But I'm just going to look at it. If they do get to 60 wins, I'm going to look at it as a 20-plus win improvement from last year. Not worry about the number of losses, but I don't think it gets Will Venable. Maybe he gets some votes, but I don't think there's any realistic possibility he's a manager of the year candidate.
I think what it does is it for me, and let me speak for me, it gets me very excited going into the offseason. Even though it's a 100-loss team.
Yeah.
I think Will Venable's the guy. He obviously was doing something right. A lot of these young guys that we've heard about that were acquired, that have been in the system, that have come up and they've demonstrated that they can play, that they're ready. We have something to build around. And I'm going to read you, a couple quotes throughout this episode about what the offseason could be. Okay. But with Colson that we talked about, with Teal that we've enjoyed, Caro, I continually like Caro. I mean, he continues to do things with his arm behind home plate, not only throwing guys off, picking guys off, his IQ, his baseball IQ, which you need to have that type of commander behind home plate. He can hit the ball. I feel like he's mature beyond his years in baseball sense. And I like that a lot. We've got depth at the catcher position, which is terribly exciting. Lenyn Sosa, we have discussed quite a bit with his he is a space ghost. He kind of goes bye-bye sometimes mentally, and his glove, has got a hole in it from time to time. But as Eric and I talked about last episode, the guy hit. What do you do? We need the offense. And he hit again this past weekend in the Angels, hitting the ball on the screws with authority.
Yeah.
Okay. He's starting to mash the ball and look comfortable. Mydroth, Vargas is on the IL, but I've liked his bounce back this year and what he's got going on. And then on Saturday night, you've got Aaron Savali. Just wow, he is pitching so well. I don't know what his future is with the Chicago White Sox beyond this year, but he was the guy traded for Andrew Vaughn, which Milwaukee is like, it's all good. You can have Savali. We're happy with Milwaukee Vaughn. Milwaukee Vaughn is on a different planet right now, and that's great because I like what Milwaukee's doing in that division. But Savali, since the All-Star break, 17 and a third innings, no earned runs, 20 strikeouts, 7 hits allowed, and 3 walks. Since the second half began, Savali is just one of 2 starters who have thrown at least 15 innings without allowing an earned run. Okay, that's rarefied air. That's exciting when you can couple that type of pitching with some of the offense that we're seeing. Shane Smith is back. He's looking healthy and starting to get a little bit more comfortable. So we're going to talk trade deadline and what happened, what didn't happen. A lot of nothing happened, but maybe that means something. I've got a generous quote here from Chris Getz, if you don't mind me reading this. And this is how Chris Getz has been feeling about our Chicago White Sox. In the last year and a half as general manager here, I've never been more excited to come into the ballpark. You go into a game knowing you have a chance to win. There's a lot that goes into winning baseball games. We've got more pieces than we have in the past that can help us win ball games. So these next 2 months, I think, are going to be exciting. We're hitting the fastball better. That was highly emphasized. I know Will Venable has talked about that publicly. He really had been stressing it amongst both staff and players, and the players have taken to it. So credit to Will and credit to our players. Hitting the fastball has really opened up the possibilities for us offensively, and we've been able to score more runs. I'd say that stands out the most. There's been some really good pitching performances. Our bullpen has become much more reliable, and Grant Taylor is a big part of that reason. We've been able to have pitchers settle into more roles and perhaps are more suitable for their skill set. Bullpen starters and our offense are to credit, but if I had to pick one thing that has jumped out post-break, it's our offense, and you and I spoke of that. I feel like that is something I hear from a lot of Sox fans these days when you're watching games recently is what is happening here? I mean, you turn on the game and they're already winning. Okay.
Yeah.
The ball's jumping off of their bat. And I like hearing that there was an emphasis on something and they actually were able to achieve it and trend in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And, speaking of Chris Getz, I mean, there was, I think there was a clip I saw out on X earlier today that, was Bob Nightingale, the White Sox whisperer and mouthpiece for Jerry Reinsdorf. And a lot of GMs apparently not happy and not loving to work with Chris Getz because obviously he wanted the moon for Lou Bob and not a lot happened and he didn't bend for them. And I say, too bad, so sad. I'm glad that, and I get it. There's a lot of things that's going to happen with 88 between now and, the beginning of next year, how this offseason goes and the option and are you picking it up? Are you doing the buyout for $2 million? But you've got a lot invested in this guy as a player. He's a homegrown player. You brought him up through your system. You scouted this talent and brought him up. Yes, he has not lived up to the potential that we all wanted. And I think I've jokingly, probably flippantly said, I'd take a bag of baseballs for him right now, right? Because he's just not performing. But as someone in a position of Chris Getz's, you can't just continue to give things away. And I get it. The value probably doesn't make sense from the other GM's perspective. Like, this guy hasn't done anything. He's usually not available. This is what he's worth. It doesn't mean that you have to bend over and take it all the time, because maybe then you look at it and go, okay, this core of young players that we've mentioned, how excited we are about them right now, they could be coming to a place where the timeline is maybe sped up, right? Maybe you're not looking at a rebuild that's a 5-year rebuild. Maybe it's looking like, okay, maybe we could shorten this up. We have an all-star caliber Gold Glove center fielder with a ton of talent. Maybe the Will Venable coaching staff can reach him, unlike before, and we can find a way to win with Luis Robert Jr. I know this is crazy because before the break, we were saying you should probably trade him. Don't let this happen. But we're at the point now where we missed the offseason with the trade on Lou Bob. We've missed the trade deadline with him. I'm almost rather try and just play it out and see what happens than just give things away for nothing when you've had a lot invested. If we didn't have as much time and energy and dollars invested in him to this point, then I'd say maybe it's a little bit easier just kind of walk and let him walk and get whatever you can get for him. But if all you're getting is some third-rate prospect that maybe you'll never see and will not be part of your future anyway, I'd rather keep the guy that is, still with the very high ceiling.
Yeah, Robert, I think Eric and I were both convinced that he was going to be gone, that we'd be doing this episode 318, and he would have been on a different team. There's parts of me that thought maybe he really pushed for that as a player. He talked to his management team and said, "Get me out of here. I want to be on a contender. I'm healthy. See what you can do." There were all kinds of little snippets and articles and things well into the offseason and even at the beginning of the season of Getz and company want to move Robert. That is such a focus. And I wonder if things started galvanizing and Getz saw that, couple it with Getz's crazy high demands, wanting the moon, and other GMs are like, you're crazy. That's too high of a price. We're not going to do that. And Getz stood his ground, looking at what he's got around him right now, how players are responding, maybe some of the dialogue behind the curtain of, we like what's happening here. We've got a good mix. And boy, it would really be nice to have Luis Robert Jr. for a little bit longer. Could that be an attractive thing for a free agent in the offseason? I've got myself starting to think that maybe they're going to add in the offseason. And we've got Getz mentioning that in our quote of the week, kind of talks about that later on this episode. But Robert's got a $20 million club option for each of the 2026 and 2027 seasons. And we've mentioned that, boy, we don't even know what's going to happen with the 2027 season. I mean, with the way the lockout, these talks can go, but let's stay in the present here. So that's where his options are, with a $2 million buyout. White Sox have left fielder Andrew Benintendi's $17.1 million on the payroll for next season, but not much more. So keeping Robert certainly wouldn't break the budget, regardless of where it's set. So you say, you know what? We don't have a lot of commitments. Let's keep them. And who knows? Again, with this looming lockout, does management, does ownership actually want to spend money? Do capital infusions from Ish? Do they happen? I don't know. But the way the White Sox have been playing, Pat, myself as a fan, I like this feeling. I haven't felt this type of feeling in a while, where I'm kind of the future. This is something I want to invest in. Yeah. Once again, I think maybe next year it can be competitive. If a couple things go. Yeah. Everybody's got a plan of what the window could look like for a team. And again, it's early. It's terribly early. But let us be excited. Let me be excited. Maybe it's happening sooner with some of these guys.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting offseason. You mentioned it from a perspective of how much influence does Ish have in getting in Jerry's ear on doing things now, right? With the ownership percentage that he now obtains, still not majority ownership, but it's a lot. It's a lot more than he had 5 months ago. So how influential can he be, or will he be? And is it time to start pushing some dollars out there to bring in other talent? And does that help having, and I don't know, Ishbia could turn out to be the worst owner of all time eventually. I have no idea. But does that face help with the free agent talk? Because we know that there are free agents that will not come here because of Jerry, right? He's got a bad rap amongst players in the league. There's no doubt about that. So now with some different things, does that change a little bit? I don't know. That'll be interesting. I still don't see them adding huge in this offseason, Nick. I think there'll be additions, but I want you to be happy, Nick. I want you to be excited. But I'm gonna say maybe temper your expectations in terms of what they do add. I've not looked at what's going to be available and where we need the help. So I don't know. It's all interesting. But I wouldn't hold your breath on thinking that they're going to go out and spend even a decent amount of money this offseason.
At some point they're going to have to spend. They know that they're going to have to spend. Everybody knows it. And we played this game, the last rebuild, where we were looking at free agency classes well before we probably should. Yeah. And wait a second, maybe the Sox are in a spot a little earlier than expected where they can go after an arm or a position player, a bat, to start things in motion. A domino has to fall. Again, this looming labor situation with a looming lockout, I hear a lot of people saying spending is probably, people are afraid to do a lot of spending right now until we see how things all are sorted out after the 2026 season. But according to Getz, it sounded like with keeping Robert, Sox might be in a much different situation that they have been in the last several seasons. And, Scott mentioned, what's the over-under on how many days until Luis Robert Jr. is on the IL now that he knows he's stuck with the Sox? And I wondered that too. Not necessarily, is he going to kind of loaf around, and is he in a depressive, and is he in a depression almost, and he's not going to be playing well because I'm wondering if he's relieved a little bit of all this is over. I've liked Chicago. Yeah, we're not going anywhere right now. I've been paid handsomely, and I will be continued to be paid handsomely. I'm settled here in Chicago, and I kind of like who's around me. I kind of like this vibe. Or, is it the other way around? If I'm going to try to like it and put a good face on, but I want to win a World Series as soon as possible. I want to win on a team, and I just don't know if you're going to see the effort completely drop off. But that's you could make an argument both ways, I guess.
I think it's one of those things where you look at it, Nick, and you say, if he's listening to representation properly, you don't want to start putting things out on tape that show a lack of effort, because again, you could get to the end of the season and get a $2 million buyout. And then you're going to look at, okay, I got a guy here that is often injured. And now I'm seeing somebody that's not putting in great effort and is well below where his expectation is from an offensive perspective. You got to think about your career as a whole. Yeah, I know that you want to go somewhere and win a World Series, and you want trades to happen, and you want those trades to go to great teams. I get all that, but you can't start putting out on tape a lack of effort, because that'll get you killed in professional sports. No organization wants to bring in somebody that's a lack of effort guy when times are tough.
I think that's a good point too. I mean, everybody's watching. Everybody's got the video. We joked that during that Pittsburgh series weeks ago, the performance he put on during that series should have been packaged up, but it was already seen by everybody, because everybody has access to everything these days. Put that together if you're really trying to move Luis Robert Jr. and say, this is what you could be getting regularly, And Howard mentioned that he's read that Luis Robert Jr. is relieved that he's still. I hope that's the case. I really do. Wouldn't that be nice for just club chemistry? There are no cliques. We're not hearing about any bad blood. That again, I think it's that house money mentality of, wow, we've already passed up last year's win total. Like, let's just show what we can do. Let's play for each other. Let's have some fun. We're probably going to be together for a while here.
Yeah.
And let's force maybe the organization's hand. I don't know. But again, it's been terribly fun. It really has been. And I like these situations where, you're texting with other Sox fans in your life. And I was looking forward to the games. We did our golfing trip, and it was just a beautiful weather. We had so much fun this past weekend. Ups and downs on the course, as it tends to be. But at night, it was like we were gathered. We were able to get the Sox game on the TV, and, cheering them on, when they were scoring runs, and Savali's doing what he's doing. And that, I like that. I've been missing that in my life. And it didn't happen last year. Even when you were gathered around Sox fans, it was like, who cares?
Yeah.
This is a joke. And then there's no hope. There's hope now. I feel it.
Yeah.
And to each their own, but this is trending in the right direction.
Okay, so Nick is all the way back. Everybody is what you just heard. We need to have a comparison tape of that rant. I won't call it a rant. It wasn't a bad thing, but where you just you spoke about compared to maybe the Nick of let's say March. That's quite a turnaround. I love it.
Well, March, I hate to say it, but I felt like I was apathetic. I didn't want to be that way. I hate being apathetic about the White Sox. But I felt like that was the situation that was presented to me. There's no other way to feel.
Right.
You know, you can't get on Will Venable's case because of the situation he was handed. We all know where the team is, what they're trying to do with this team.
Mm-hmm.
We felt like Luis Robert Jr. was going to be gone eventually. You know, I wasn't too excited about what I saw in glimpses of guys like Vargas and what have you from last year. You know, again, the Colson reports of he's now in Arizona, he can't hit. And you're hearing and seeing the Crochet stuff and these other players that have left our team that are performing and doing well. And you're like, I just can't handle going through this all over again, where there was this hype. Look to the young guys, look to the farm system. We're climbing up the numbers in the farm rankings of throughout MLB. Who cares?
Yeah.
I want to see a product at 35th and Shields. And, you know, when I watch this team now post All-Star break, I see a group of guys that just, it's fun to watch. It's just simply fun to watch. And I'm going to be watching closely now. You know, because I want to see the growth and development, don't you? I mean, you want to see how these guys continue to mature and what they can do at the big league level.
Yeah, I do too. And you know, just to maybe go back and touch on, and I haven't broken down, you know, what's going to be available, who's going to be available, what might make sense. But as we continue to, you know, progress through the season and then come to the end of it, is, you know, where do we need to address? Because if Lenyn Sosa is part of our, you know, our future and continues to hit like this, he's a starting infielder, right? He's been playing first, he's done second, he's done some things. I know that, you know, hasn't been all that impressive from a defensive standpoint. But if his bat is mashing like that, you got to keep that. You've got Murawski, right? He's kind of locked in. It seems like Colson Montgomery is either going to play short or third. And then you've got, you know, Vargas, who's out right now. And we like what we've seen from him. You go to your outfield. You've got Benintendi still, you know, going to be around for a while. Lou Bob is again still here. We'll see what happens. Mike Tauchman, right? Who was nice
supposed to be gone.
Who's supposed to be gone, and he's still here.
He's here,
and he's playing well. So, and you feel like you feel really good about what you have from a catching perspective. And maybe it's a Teal to first, and Sosa moves back over to second, and you got Murawski goes to short, and Colson Montgomery plays third on a regular basis, and you can mix and match a little bit there with maybe a Teal and Caro from a first base or catching or DH position. But whatever it is, I'm looking forward to, like, okay, from a position standpoint, I don't really know what I'm going out and buying. I guess I'm looking at, for me, let's solidify that bullpen, which scares the hell out of me a little bit, because I genuinely don't love going out and trying to pay guys that are bullpen guys, because it seems like as soon as you pay and go out and get a bullpen guy, they have their worst year of their career or something. Just bullpens are so finicky, it seems like, when you're trying to build them via free agency. But I guess if you had to ask me, that's where I guess I'd look to try and build it, you know, or trying to buy for.
Yeah, bullpen arms, you know, we've done this before. The White Sox have gone out and spent $1 bajillion on their bullpen, and it didn't quite work out for them. They've traded at the deadline to have the greatest bullpen with Kimbrel and Hendricks, and too many moving parts, guys not comfortable in different roles. Was at La Russa and the way that he likes to design a team, you know, and a bullpen, and how he manages in game. We need to look at the bullpen, of course. I'm looking at who's a reliable starter, who can be an anchor with these young guys. I'm always looking at arms, but in the terms of starting pitching, and then if you can get a bomber, if you can get a bomber in your lineup somehow with a bat, of course you're looking at that. Now, I don't think Mydroth, I don't think he's got the range for shortstop. I like him more at second base, but if Sosa keeps hitting, then what happens with Elko? Is Elko going to get more chances here, or was that it for Elko? That can't be it. What was that crazy stat you told me about with Teal? That odd. Do you remember?
Oh, the one with the 1 run games caught thing. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah.
So yeah, I heard. I think I can't remember where I see half of this stuff. Probably on X, but he's the first catcher since Buster Posey, and I can't remember the year, to catch a one hitter or no hitter and drive in the only run in a 1 run victory, which is the oddest stat that you're ever going to hear. But that's what makes being a fan fun, when you hear stuff like that, and it's your guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, Colson has been talked about kind of in that era with the way he's started and the amount of home runs he's had. Now, you have not had a lot of opportunities to listen to Dan Plesac, who's I don't know what's going on with Stone. Do you know what's happening with Steve Stone? Is he okay?
I don't.
I'm asking seriously. I hope he's all right. I know he has accrued a lot of vacation time over the many years that he has been in broadcasting, and I feel like he is just cashing them all in this season.
Yeah,
which is fine. I like Plesac a lot. I like him so much better than Gordon Beckham. When it was Beckham and Schriffen, and the way they were playing last year, sorry. This is going to be on mute, or I will find out what happened later at another time, but I am not going to labor through this with these two knuckleheads. They're having fun, though. It always sounded like they were having fun, which was good. Plesac is a joy to listen to. I really like him.
Amazing. Yeah. I've always liked Dan Plesac. And again, Plesac did, pre and post for the Cubs. I can't remember the years he was there. And then he went to the MLB Network. But Dan Plesac is, one, he's knowledgeable. Two, he's really entertaining and fun and funny and affable, and seems like to connect with the fan base really well. Like it's a fun listen when he and when you have that, it kind of masks the Schriffen kind of oddities, I guess, that I still haven't gotten used to. Good broadcaster, but still doesn't feel like my guy, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Dan Plesac does feel like my guy, because that's a guy that is a White Sox fan and does care, and he can play that homer type role that I think we all still want and need from our broadcast groups, right? So
I like that. Hawk Harrelson, which we talked about, didn't look very good at the reunion, but I'm glad he was there, and I don't think we're going to get any audio from him. I don't think he's going to come back in the booth as they celebrate 125 years. I just don't think it. It sounds like he is not doing very well. And he gets a bad rap from a lot of people outside White Sox fandom, and even White Sox fans, and teach their own, again, have said, well, he wasn't my cup of tea, or especially the last few years. Curmudgeon, quiet, angry, not a good relationship with Stoney, silent at times, and a homer, just a big homer. And it's tough. It's tough for you to be a little bit of everything, and you're not going to please everybody. You absolutely are not. You have to be true to yourself as a broadcaster, whether you're doing color or play-by-play. I got to have a little bit of homer, though, in me. I got to have somebody that is wearing that passion. And Plesac grew up a Sox fan. Benetti grew up a Sox fan. Hawk, just with the organization, invested in the organization for so long. You heard it, you felt it. I mean, he acted like you and I, and a bunch of other Sox fans, so many others. So to have that, that's been enjoyable. And I think Dan said it in the chat. Yeah, he did. Plesac signed on for 21 games, and I think today was his last of the season. But that was a treat. That really was a treat to have him around.
How nice would it have been to have a Benetti and Plesac booth? I think that would be.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a couple of guys that aren't your typical, by the book. But Plesac is such he was a good one to go to. As Stone is a good one to go to with pitching.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that with young pitchers. I like getting the mindset of a veteran, someone like Stone or Plesac that did it for a long time in professional baseball, giving me a perspective of, what they might be trying to do to get right, perhaps, if something is not working and they've got like C+ stuff and they know it at the beginning of a game. Well, where do you go from here? What potentially is going wrong, with whatever pitches that they have and what the mentality is and all that kind of stuff. But it seemed really easy and comfortable for Plesac. And when you make someone like Schriffen look good and you don't really, and he hasn't been bad at all compared to, last year was a growing year for Schriffen.
Yeah.
And I know that last year caused so much pain for so many people. It's tough for them to move past that. I understand. It's going to probably take some time, but Schriffen is, I haven't heard any Panther growls. Let's just say that.
No, there haven't been as many as I thought there would be.
So in terms of win total, we're at a number that, again, a lot of people didn't think we were going to get to 42. You think it's still like, do you think we can go to 65?
Oh
Could
boy,
this team get to 65 wins?
That's that's going to be tough. I honestly, I'd have to look at the schedule very closely and try and figure out where we get that many wins from. That's a tall order, Nordberg. But I guess it's possible. I mean, they'd have to stay on a heater for a long time and not, not really go the other way for more than 2 or 3 game stretches where you're losing. So, I guess anything's possible. I'm not ready to go there yet, Nick, but I'd love to see us challenge for it. And then never talk about 60 wins as a good thing ever again.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's where you have to have that mentality of an organization to set some standards and say we're not going back that way. We're not going to be doing this every 5 to 8 years or whatever. We are going to constantly just reload. We're not going to rebuild. And this is going to be a mentality from top to bottom. Sox have got an off day on Monday, and then Seattle, Cleveland, Detroit. Okay, that could be challenging. Kansas City, Atlanta, Minnesota, Kansas City, the Yankees, more Minnesota. Phil said it in the chat. A lot of games against Minnesota. Minnesota was just like, you know what? This isn't happening for us right now. We're just gonna just completely tear everything down. And you take whoever you want. I think Byron Buxton had a no trade clause, and they just got rid of everybody else on the team. So Minnesota is going to be in free fall. But but I like seeing this crop of players against teams right now that have something to play for, to see how they respond. This is good experience, right? For some of these young guys.
Great experience.
So I don't want to get too hung up on a number, but maybe it's the game within the game. Maybe it's the series. Maybe it's just how this team that again, playing with house money, nothing to prove, no expectations, responds down the stretch here. When there are games that are going to matter for our opposition, that's always fun. How do you play spoiler, as these guys hopefully continually get better and better? And now I'm just hoping and praying for health, because I want these guys to get as many at-bats as possible. I want the arms to get as many innings as they possibly can. And I know Shane Smith is in a situation where he's in uncharted territory. But isn't this a joy, Pat? Isn't this fun to be talking in a positive way about our Chicago White Sox?
I didn't think we'd be here, honestly. I didn't think we'd be here talking about it or experiencing it. So let's ride the wave as long as they'll provide us the joy. Let's ride it. And listen, it hasn't been fun to have your back turned to one of your favorite things. Right. And that's how I've felt for the better part of a year. It's fun to be reinvested into it.
So, and that could come, talking about investments, capital infusions, that could be coming this off season. And this is where our quote of the week is going to maybe shed a little bit of light, and we could kind of unpack it a bit. It comes from Getz, but before we get to quote of the week, I want to just thank it's been an awesome chat tonight here on the Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. So many wonderful comments and ideas and thoughts, and I could feel it. I could feel the excitement and the energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming through. It's being injected into my veins. I'm feeling it, and I love that. This is when you're doing something you love and you're passionate about, it does not feel like work. And Pat and I have been doing it for a long, long time. So many of you have been with us on this ride, and new people jumping in all the time. And I hope what we're experiencing right now in the small sample size, I hope this just continues to grow and build. And this is really what the future is. I hope. And I don't think this is just a flash in the pan, Pat. I really do believe now. I'm starting to believe that this is what we could be experiencing more and more as the season moves on and next year unfolds. So
let's hope, buddy. Let's keep hoping.
We've got this podcast available everywhere you find your podcasts, audio, but we do appreciate that subscription. Even if you don't think you're going to get to the YouTube live shows, it costs you nothing. Subscribe. It actually means a ton for us, and pass it along to other Sox fans in your life. Always a treat talking to other Sox fans, and this has been a joy, and tonight has been a lot of fun. Here is your quote of the week, talking about off-season moves, perhaps, Pat. This is from Chris Getz. You never know how things will unfold. We had a fair amount of players asked about in deals, but we felt it was best to certainly keep the players who were not traded. We're open to adding to this team in this offseason. I expect to do that. The most valuable thing here is having Luis Robert part of that equation, part of our lineup on a regular basis, and we're excited about that. How about it, Pat?
Wow. Interesting. That? And I think the most interesting part about that is, specifically calling out Luis Robert Jr. I think that's more of a, I'm not just going to give this guy away, but I am still interested in moving him comment, if that makes sense. Right. Because he's done that even when he was, again, struggling early on. Getz seemed to go out of his way to talk about how great Luis Robert Jr. is and the tools and this and that. I think this is one of those moments again. So I think his intention is probably still to try and do something with him in the future, but we'll see. Again, you never believe anything anybody says when they have a microphone in front of them. From a general manager perspective, they're usually lying to you. So that's great if it's true, but I don't, I have maybe a little bit of a crooked eye when I hear that.
Yeah. Well said. Thanks you for knocking me down all the way back to earth. Good on you for helping me out. because I was starting to float up like a hot air balloon. I was
Okay, well, hey, you float up. And listen, man, if we just agreed on everything all the time, or I just said, yeah, you're awesome, everything's awesome. Nobody would think this is compelling podcast.
You are right.
We have to have
you
a
are 100%
point,
right.
counterpoint. So I'm not. I listen. I'm going to look at it from a little bit different of a lens and say, I think that's a guy trying to sell his guy.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's exciting stuff. I enjoyed reading that, and I like where the Sox are out. And I hope next time we talk next week, it was another productive week with some exciting tales. You've got a Bill Veeck bobblehead game on Saturday, August 9th. And then, Sydney asked about next Sunday. I'll be there next Sunday for that Ozzie Guillen bobblehead on August 10th. So some good weekend White Sox action, some good giveaways there.
I knew you would be. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where you're putting all these bobbleheads.
Well, you know, when the Bears season gets going and you come over and I make chili for you and we're in the basement throwing some shuffleboard, having a few laughs, talking about our 66-win White Sox team, I will show you. I will show you where all the bobbleheads.
I'm just worried you're running out of space. That's all.
Well, that's a whole nother. Yes, I will be having to talk to my brother about how to drill into some of this brick to create a whole new cabinetry. But those are off-season worries. I'll get to that. I'll figure that out.
So this capital will be spent on new shelving for bobbleheads. Right. Capital infusions into the bobblehead shelves.
Yeah.
Got it.
Me too. I'm thinking about capital infusions always. So that's where that will go. All right. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us once again here on this Sunday night, and wherever you listen, whenever you listen, subscribe and pass it along. Hey, for Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.